So I've introduced a lot of speakers in my day, and it's common to say that a speaker needs no introduction, but in this case, it's actually true. Still, it's worth saying that Senator Charles Schumer is not just a U.S. senator, but one of our nation's top leaders. And even though we never met, he's often with me during breakfast on Sunday morning via Meet the Press or Face the Nation. And when I hear him on those programs, I hear him speak on the critical issues of our time. But he's also familiar with our issues. Just recently, Senator Schumer negotiated an important agreement to protect the privacy of mobile phone users when they're shopping in stores. And he's also helped promote the use of technology to give parents of autistic children the ability to track those children, of course, on a voluntary basis, should they wander off, which, as the Senator knows, is a risk in that situation. But in this world of tech and online presence, the Senator from New York makes a point of visiting every county in his state at least once a year, so that he can meet with people face to face. Senator, it's a great honor to welcome you to the first official U.S. celebration of Global Safer Internet Day.
Thank you, Larry. It's great to be here. I thank all of you for coming. Do we have any New Yorkers in the room? Raise your hands. Thank you. Particular welcome to you. So Larry mentioned I visit every county every year, and I thought I'd tell a little story about that. I always like to begin with a little story. It's true. When I first ran for the Senate in 1998, my opponent, who was then the incumbent senator, Republican senator from New York, Al D'Amato, said to all the people in upstate New York, and New York City is obviously the largest city in the country, but take away New York City and the suburbs, New York would still be the 7th or 8th largest state. We have the 3rd largest rural population, so it's an important area. And D'Amato kept getting up there and saying, if you vote for Schumer, if you vote in Schumer, you'll never see him west of the Hudson. You'll never see him upstate. So I made a promise, and I said, I'll visit every county every year. My first year, I'll visit every county. And I did, and I enjoyed it so much, first time on a dairy farm, stuff like that, that I've did it every year since. I've done it every year since. So it proved to be successful. I won my re-election, my first re-election, by a large amount, 71%, and I carried 61 of 62 New York counties. Now, the only county I didn't carry was Hamilton County. And for those of you who know your New York geography, it's our smallest county in population. It only has 5,000 people. It's a beautiful county. It's large geographically. It's in the Adirondack Mountains. It has beautiful lakes and rivers and streams, great hunting, great fishing. But only 5,000 people. But true to my promise, I have visited it 6 times. And it's the day after the election. I'm sort of feeling my oats. I'd won by so much, carried every county but one. So I said to my chief of staff, Martin Brennan, I said, Martin, why is it that you think that the only county we lost was Hamilton County? He said, well, Chuck, that's easy. I said, really? What do you mean? He said, well, it only has 5,000 people. I said, that's right. He said, you visited it 6 times. I said, that's right. He said, well, it's the only county where you actually met every single voter. Anyway. So much for visiting every county. But now I've visited 14 times, 14 years being senator. So anyway, I thank all of you for being here and inviting me to Safer Internet Day. The program has been going strong in over 100 countries around the world for a while. But I want to congratulate ConnectSafely for their success in introducing Safer Internet Day to the U.S. Thanks to your leadership, for the first time, we're getting the opportunity to recognize these important issues in the United States. So I can say, I think unequivocally, this may be our first Safer Internet Day, but it won't be our last. I want to particularly thank Larry Magid. I don't know where he went. Here he is, who, like me, was born in Brooklyn. Where'd you go to high school, Larry?
I actually grew up in L.A. I
apologize. Oh. Moved to California. Anyway, well, a lot of your children are moving back to New York, all the Californian kids. Anyway, he was born in Brooklyn. I thank him for the introduction, but much more importantly for his hard work and devotion to making the internet a safer and better place. Now, some of you in the audience may look at me and think I'm an old fuddy-duddy. I'm still using America Online with my dial-up modem. But the rest of you who may have never even heard of America Online, and while I probably never Snapchat with Senator Rand Paul, I do understand the great potential of the internet. I've had many people approach me saying they've Googled me looking for contact information for my office or about an article about a bill I'm working on. But instead of reading the latest on Chuck Schumer, they end up reading the latest joke from Amy Schumer. So I said many times when asked this, no relation. But then I found out she is. She's Gordon Schumer's daughter. She's my second cousin once removed. So she actually is a relative. But I got a great kick. My nephew started college this year, and his roommate, when they heard his name was Max Schumer, said, "Are you related to Amy?" So put me in my place rather significantly. Anyway, the point being is that everyone in this room has used the internet for a basic search and ended up with more than they bargained for. When our results lead us to watch a new TED Talk, read research done in a different language that was automatically translated, or find a new favorite blog, the internet becomes a very valuable tool. But the alternative is very real and sometimes very scary. The theme of today's event, Making the Internet Better Together, resonates particularly strongly with me, both as a parent and as a policymaker. In the early days of the internet, most of what we heard about the web on the Hill were the ways people were abusing this new resource. Today, things are different, thankfully. We're able to focus on policy driven mostly by the opportunities for good and for growth. Today, we get to focus on the ways the internet helps grow our minds and connect us safely to those in the next town, the next city, the next county, or even the next continent. These advances have led to partnerships in every industry: education, medicine, business, and politics. So let me give you a few examples. First, the internet has opened up opportunities and experiences for our kids we could never imagine, such as electric pen pals. In my day, you'd get a pen pal, you'd take out a pen and paper, write a note to someone who was far away, another state or another country, put a stamp on the envelope, send it in the mail, and it would take weeks or even months before you'd get a response. It was a big thing. Today, teachers are online, and they're able to instantly connect to another class of students anywhere in the world. It's an amazing difference in terms of bringing us together. Our students are able to see, talk, and experience other students, learn about different cultures from kids their own age, and they can do it in real time. The world is literally opened up with the power of online communication. See, when we open the world to our students, we have to be able to answer the questions that grow out of that experience. We have to make sure students have better access to information, which revolutionizes education. Primary and secondary school students increasingly rely on inter-based research sources for their studies. In areas that are far from a library or a research center, broadband services make long-distance learning and online degrees an option, which greatly increase the potential of those that attain them. Online education programs create opportunities to bring specialized programs to rural areas, where there may not be enough demand for a campus-based program, but where having a degree and knowledge of a specific issue can mean great things for the community. Without the ability to stream videos of classes or load large documents for research, students and teachers are put at a disadvantage. But thankfully, more and more schools are investing in the new technology and participating in distance learning. Distance learning programs have changed the nature of education, particularly for rural areas. One of the best indicators of a child's future success is their access to quality education. So when a kid misses school due to weather or is out sick, they should be able to download taped lectures so they don't miss a beat. With teachers pooling their class offerings across different schools, the range of classes you can take is just magnified enormously. This will mean a brighter future for students, whether they're here in Washington, D.C. or up in Hamilton County, New York. The internet also promotes opportunity for kids beyond the classroom, especially when it comes to political engagement. Any of us as elected officials have learned that. by getting all those very nice messages that everybody always sends on the net. Now we've seen even more political interest and activity from kids at a younger age. I've seen it in my own office. I used to have to beg college students to intern to learn about the legislative process in the House or Senate. Now I have to turn many people away because I don't have enough seats for all the college and high school kids who apply. But the internet has also given students other options for political activity. They can write their own blogs, share their own opinions. They can start petitions that are sent directly to me in my office. They can follow in the footsteps of Kid President and share videos about their take on what happens in Washington. These have been helpful to me as I think about policy decisions that affect your generation. I can look at Twitter or Facebook and see what younger New Yorkers are saying about the issues that face Congress. And the benefits of the internet do not stop when kids graduate from high school or college. In fact, the internet has created a flourishing economic engine for innovative business growth, especially in my state of New York. Who's from California? We're growing faster than you in terms of internet startups and new business. We're not close to as big, but we're catching up. The Progressive Policy Institute recently released a study that found that New York City's second largest job sector is tech, contributes $30 billion annually in wages to our local economy. And for every tech job created, 4 non-tech jobs, administrative assistants, office managers, even a new food truck, are created. So it's a positive feedback cycle that has to be encouraged. But it's not just high-tech and web-based businesses that rely on fast internet speeds, but retail services, agriculture, and just about every other business in America. Home businesses depend on fast and reliable internet access. Without it, we're stifling innovation rather than encouraging it. Another example, telecommuting has helped businesses save on occupancy costs and greatly increased worker productivity. If you don't have to commute an hour a day to an office and you can work from home, wow, that's a lot extra time for productivity. It's helped cut down on traffic and roadway use too, and decreased pollution. But the top line fact, according to a 2009 report from the U.S. Department of Agriculture Economic Research Service, since 2000, counties with a longer history of broadband had higher growth, higher wages, more businesses. I see it in my own state. The counties without much broadband are really suffering. Businesses in the Adirondacks, a lot of businesses would like to locate there. It's beautiful. But if you can't get broadband, or you can only get broadband if you live in a certain place, it greatly hurts their growth and ability to come to the Adirondack Mountains. And here's another area, telemedicine programs. The field of healthcare has recently turned a greater focus on providing efficient, comprehensive care, making sure healthcare access is available to everyone. Patient follow-up and in-home monitoring are amazing. We have local hospitals, particularly in rural areas. It takes a long time for a doctor or a nurse to get to the home. But with telemedicine programs, you can monitor and test a patient in their home, send the information directly to the hospital, and see if any problems are developing. It's just incredible. They've helped patients with heart conditions. They've helped patients with many others. So our hospitals and community health centers, particularly in the more rural areas, but all across New York, are using telemonitoring devices. If a patient requires consultation with a specialist, they are few and far between oftentimes. Video conferencing offers patient access without having to have a lengthy commute at a fraction of the cost. So this is another great benefit. And it benefits our veterans too. They want to return home to be with their families, but they live in rural areas. They don't have access to mental health services, such as a psychiatrist where they live. So as policymakers, we have to focus on ensuring that our legislation and future federal regulation provides proper opportunities for growth and innovation while still being informed and educated about the potential for abuse. The first step, getting people connected. The internet is only as useful for a family as their ability to access it. One of the things we are focusing on is reforming a program called E-Rate in order to get better connections to schools and libraries. It's critical now more than ever that our schools keep up with advancing technology. We can't expect our students to learn anymore unless we're engaging and teaching them both online and in the classroom. As the federal government looks to revamp E-rate, we're working to ensure there's greater flexibility as well as additional funds. We're also implementing a national broadband plan, making sure all American homes get connected. And this means not just rural areas, but poor urban areas as well. Like the transformational technologies of the past, electrification, plumbing, expanding access to broadband has the potential to remake the way New Yorkers and Americans live their lives by changing the way they learn, do business, and receive health care. But to expand broadband access, especially to the more remote parts of the country, federal investment is required. And so I'm a big supporter of the FCC's Connect America Fund, whose express purpose is to bring broadband where it was too difficult or too costly to wire, just like rural electrification in the 30s and 40s, when utility companies decided at their whim whether an area would be profitable enough to wire. Internet service companies have made similar calculations. But the truth is, internet is as essential in our economy today as electricity was in the 30s and 40s. And just as the Rural Electrification Act changed the playing field and brought electricity to the dark corners of America, so too can the federal government link up the underserved areas of our country to internet access and brighten prospects for the future. Across the country, Connect America funds will make sure students connect with each other and with our rich history. So, broadband internet is the closest thing we have to a silver bullet when it comes to improving health care, education, and growing the economy. The next step is making sure we have common sense legislation to protect the more vulnerable members of our community. COPPA, Children's Online Privacy Protection Act, is being constantly reviewed and reevaluated to make sure it's working as intended. Cybersecurity and data privacy legislation is also being considered. Finally, we have to make sure everyone knows about and has access to the myriad of resources out there, such as ConnectSafely, that help families navigate the internet both responsibly and effectively. Every parent goes back and forth on internet safety. One day you're 100% sure your kids are making smart decisions on the net. But the next day you're worried sick that someone was using technology to hurt them or get in the way of their bright futures. That's why it's important to talk about how we can have a safer internet. What's important are events like this one. And those of you who could be here today and those of you joining us online are coming together to talk about these issues. I know some of you submitted stories to Connect Safely about one good thing you did or that you do every day where you use the internet in a positive way. Those are great stories. From families staying in touch with members of our armed forces overseas, to teachers sharing their classrooms with neighbors hundreds of miles away, to someone sending an e-card just to say thanks. All of your stories prove the internet is a source of good in the world. We are all adding to that force today because this event is being live streamed through the internet all over the world. Your stories, the panelists from Instagram, Tumblr, Twitter, Xbox Live, and Google YouTube, and your questions all came together here today and truly prove that the internet is a tool for working together better. Thank you. Sure. I love photo ops. Thanks very much, kids. Good to see you. Where are you from? Michigan. Michigan. Michigan.